The best part of my job is that I get to be the one to announce that the Oblivion remaster will be available today.
This is the 27th of Last Seed, the year of Akatosh 433. These are the closing days of the Third Era and the final hours of my life.
Oblivion is one of my all-time favorite games. I have a 12-hour retrospective going over the entirety of the game's storyline, content, mechanics, etc. I have loved and will always love this entry in the Elder Scrolls series, so you'd expect me to be extremely critical and wary of any remaster that gets released, especially with Bethesda's track record as of late. And when rumors were first starting to arise, I definitely had this wariness about me. I like Skyrim, but the UI, the colors, the characters, and the combat, all of these were missing things that made Oblivion feel so special and charming. They were missing whimsy. The absurdity and magnitude of brokenness found within Oblivion is arguably one of its biggest strengths. Oblivion is so memorable because of the weird faces, the poorly delivered dialogue, and the fact that every character sounds exactly like everyone else in this weird, off-putting way that creates the most powerful, uncanny valley effect you'll ever experience in your life.
Wow, you're the grand champion. I saw your fight against the Grey Prince. You're the best. Can I follow you around? I won't get in the way.
NPCs talking to one another on the street via radiant AI.
Is looking for someone to chase the bandits from campaigns. Probably trying to enhance a weird machine.
Good to know.
Have you heard that Samuel Bantian has a bit of a checkered past?
If you're just learning how to pick a lock, he's a good man to talk to.
Saying things that are barely coherent, interacting with a citizen only to have the camera zoom in directly on their face, sometimes jump scaring, like when this one Dunmer woman hands you a note from the Thieves Guild. That one gets me every time. Every time I play this game, she scares the bejesus out of me. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear this early into the YouTube script. The creature design, the incredibly hilly and mountainous landscapes, the color grading and bloom, all of these make Oblivion feel like a cozy and lived-in environment, detached from the concept of modernity and minimalism like with Skyrim's UI as an example. So I'd of course be initially wary when I'm being told a remaster is in the works. What will change about the game? Will the characters stop looking so silly? Will the color grading be changed to a bland brown, lacking saturation and life? Will the UI be completely replaced with something more in line with modern Elder Scrolls releases like Skyrim or ESO? Will the leveling mechanics stay the same? So I was a little worried to be sure, but excited nonetheless. Even when we first saw the leaked screenshots that looked relatively brown and lifeless, I was still hopeful. With the game out now, thanks to a shadow drop during a live stream, I'm excited and elated to say that the Oblivion remaster, if that is what we're calling it, it is almost everything I would want or expect out of a re-release of this classic. With slightly updated mechanics while staying true to what made the original so enjoyable, including the mini-games, dialogue, and even the faces to some degree, the Oblivion remaster has a lot to offer to returning fans while trying to make it as presentable as possible to a newer, more Skyrim-oriented audience. So let's take a look at some of those changes now. I'm Super Red, and this is the not-so-big Oblivion Remastered review. And before we begin, your likes, comments, and subscriptions help me continue to make all of these retrospectives and reviews for you. Some of these videos take an exceptionally long time, so if you want to support me, please consider interacting with the video and following the channel. I also have channel memberships and Patreon if you want to support me financially. Thanks, everyone.
You sleep rather soundly for a murderer. That's good. You'll need a clear conscience for what I'm about to propose.
If you asked me what I wanted out of an Oblivion remaster, I tell you that I wanted the game to feel virtually identical to the previous installment, with updated graphics and updated stability. You know, it's not a lot. You can mod the original Oblivion, of course, and I'd love for some official patches and updates that made that version of the game easily accessible to individuals on PC and console, but that isn't the case at the moment. The console versions of Oblivion have their own share of problems, but the PC version is the one that really thrives thanks to community involvement. Sure, you can boot up Oblivion just fine on probably any PC at the moment, but there are a slew of issues that come along with that long term. Bugs, draw distance, and more. The original version of Oblivion can be fairly unstable and difficult to get into for an individual looking to try it out for the first time. It's not the worst, but it could be better. Generally speaking, what I want out of my favorite older games is for them to be purchasable, readily available, affordable, functional, the whole shebang. Something that Oblivion meets a lot of the standards for, it just needs a bit of work on functionality if you want the best experience. So if I'm getting a remaster, I want the Oblivion experience to be as close to the original as possible. And I'm happy to say that, although there are some changes and still bugs somehow, this remaster manages to meet those expectations with, you know, mostly flying colors. I give them an A+ maybe. Actually, no, I'm considering S in that situation. I give them like a B-. There was some fear that the charm of the game would be lost based off of some early leaked screenshots we saw when the game was close to releasing. However, while it may not be as saturated as the original, I found that the land of Cyrodiil still manages to be incredibly vibrant, now just missing a lot of the bloom or HDR or whatever that you may remember from when you used to play. That's fine with me. The game graphically looks phenomenal when it comes to landscapes, buildings, textures, etc. Just visiting Shadenhall for the first time left me in awe at how well the game conveyed the coziness of the original. Every single location feels like it was pulled out exactly as it was in the original and given a new coat of paint. This even goes for the characters. A big part of Oblivion's identity comes from the characters, both through their design and line delivery. If you were to update the characters to look more realistic, more normal, the game would lose a lot of what makes it so nostalgic. And I feel like Virtuos hit this specific aspect out of the park. Oblivion Remastered's characters look so uncanny in a next-gen sense that it perfectly encapsulates what made the prior version so authentically goofy. Rather than giving you a more realistic looking set of characters, the developers decided to add in a large amount of realistic detail, but keep the absurdity when it comes to things like the facial structure, the piercing eyes, the works. And paired with the old voice lines, it really does just come off as an authentic Oblivion experience, but one that offers some beautifully updated visuals to go alongside it. The only issue is the addition of new voiced dialogue, or rather the replacement of existing dialogue. Some characters and lines have been re-recorded by new voice actors, and for a returning player, these can feel out of place. Even trying to see it from the perspective of a newer player, I feel like the re-recorded lines just lacked the delivery of the old ones. So you get this weird contrast when hearing them side by side. The lines in the original release were recorded alphabetically for whatever reason, so the delivery comes off in a unique manner you don't really hear in anything else. I don't know if they decided to repeat that in the remaster with the new voiceover, but I highly doubt it, and that causes a bit of a shift whenever you hear one Imperial Guard talk as you expect, and then hear another deliver lines in a completely different manner.
By the 9th of... Stop right there, criminal scum! Nobody breaks the law on my watch! I'm confiscating your stolen goods. Now pay your fine, or it's off to jail. Then pay with your blood! Such
Stop right there,
violence.
criminal scum. Nobody breaks the law on my watch. I'm confiscating your stolen goods. Now pay your fine or it's off to jail. Then pay with your blood.
So it sounds a little silly to say before the review is done, but if you liked Oblivion, I feel you would be hard pressed to find a reason to really dislike this release. At least based on the content itself, it offers everything you would want as a returning fan and makes some changes for a new audience, but what are those changes exactly?
You. I've seen you. Let me see your face.
One of the first notable changes is that every race you select in character creation has two options in terms of homeland. Sure, you're an Imperial, but are you from Nibene or Colovia? Rather than just being flavor for role-playing purposes, these offer slight changes to your starting attributes as well. Maybe subtract 10 from strength and add 10 to endurance as an example. A welcome addition that adds a little without subtracting much from the original experience. Especially since these basically technically existed within the original, but were tied to gender before. Now you can choose any body type you want and get the attributes that are best for you. And yeah, we are using type 1 and type 2 for choosing body types now instead of male and female. Sorry to all the freaks out there who are having their experience ruined because of that one small, negligible addition. It'll be okay. Promise. Additionally, when you start the game, it automatically gives you a clairvoyance spell that didn't previously exist within the original. This is a spell from Skyrim, and while I don't use it, it seems to offer a sort of leading trail within a map so that you can get around easier. Sure, you have the waypoints, but if a dungeon is particularly winding and overlapping, I imagine this would help a newer player get their bearings and find their way around. It's not something I see as particularly necessary, and I do feel it detracts a bit from the exploration aspect of dungeons, but it really felt like a don't like it, don't use it mechanic to me because I only even found it by looking at my spell sheet immediately after starting the game. It basically disappeared from my mind until I started writing this review. There are some more major and minor changes to find throughout the game, and I'm not going to list all of them, but I do want to focus on some I consider very important. If you want to see an entire list of these changes, I'll link a Reddit thread offering that in the description. Furthermore, for character creation, a lot of the changes have been made so you can more intricately customize your character. You can choose a variety of colorful skin tones, and every eye type in the game seems to be available to all characters regardless of their race. You even get facial hair now, which doesn't sound so crazy, but the way this shit was handled in the original was by toning the skin rather than having any actual hair. This meant the only character with facial hair was Sheogorath, and you could only meet him if you had the Shivering Isles DLC. This was a bit of an in-joke during development of the Shivering Isles, and there's references to one of the developers who grew some facial hair during the creation, along with a bit of an Easter egg lore suggesting Sheogorath kills anyone that isn't clean-shaven. I doubt this will be brought up if you talk to him with a beard, but that would be a cool addition if they did it. I don't know if they did it. I haven't gotten to Sheogorath yet, but I hope they did it. That'd be cool. One of the biggest and most major changes, one that I feel almost everyone will see as a net positive, is the differences between the old and new leveling system. In the original Oblivion, you have major and minor skills. This is true for both releases, but the original would only let you level up if you increase the major skills specifically. On a level up, you would select 3 attributes to increase, and the amount of this increase would be based on what skills you leveled to get there. So if you wanted strength to have a maximum of a +5 boost on a level up, you needed to make sure you increased the proper skills enough to do so, with luck always being increased by 1 regardless of skills, because luck is busted. It's so busted. This led to a min-maxing mindset. It's not completely necessary, but I would still call it pretty crucial. A player is going to have a much better time in Oblivion if they know how to maximize their attributes. The issue is that if you care about this, it affects how you play the game and sort of locks you into always caring about what skills need to be increased and which ones can be increased until a new level. It's very limiting creatively in that sense, and takes away a lot of the player's freedom. It's also just confusing and one of the main aspects that makes it difficult for players to get into the original release if they've never looked into it before. Well, lo and behold, we have a semi-reworked system for the new release that is much more player-friendly. You still have major and minor skills, where major skills will receive a 20-point boost and level faster than others, but all skills now contribute to a level up. And when you level, you are given 12 points to spend between 3 attributes. You can't spend 3 on strength, 3 on endurance, 3 on wisdom, and 3 on intelligence as an example. That's 4 attributes, you can't do that. The maximum amount of attributes you can increase per level is 3, and the maximum amount of points you can put into one of these attributes is 5. But if you know anything about the luck attribute, that sounds pretty broken. Luck affects a lot of the game, but mainly skill bonuses. To remedy that, not only can you only increase luck by 1 point per level, just like the original, but it costs 4 skill points to do so. So if you want to increase luck, again one of the better attributes in the game, it will require a heavy investment. But you can still put 5 points into another attribute and 3 into a final one. This allows you to max out 1 or 2 attributes before even reaching level 20, assuming you level luck every time. I love this change. It adds so much simplicity and freedom to the leveling process. It takes away the burden of thinking about what skills you have to use and makes it more accessible for newer players. There is no reason that your character would be thinking about how he can't improve his blade skill until he improves his mercantile skill. It makes no in-world sense and is merely a meta mechanic for leveling purposes. This removed that thought process entirely. Now you just play the game how you want, and you will naturally level up and then spend those points as you feel best fit your character, all while still keeping the original feeling of the old skill system. You still level up these skills and you still gain perks at every 25 points of them. However, what those perks are has been changed slightly, or at least rearranged. In the original, Armorer wouldn't let you repair magic items until a skill level of 50, but that's been moved to 25 now. So there's little updates to skills here and there that make the process of using them feel more rewarding. Waiting until 50 to repair magic items may have made sense from an in-universe skill level perspective, but man, was it annoying and costly until you finally reached that. The map has seen some quality of life changes as well. Not only can you zoom in on it now, but you can filter locations, and icons have been given new color coding to better identify. One change I really hate though is how the local map works now. It used to be that you could select the world map or local map by choosing the correct tab. Now you need to fully zoom in on the world map to be brought to the local one, and zooming in is a little restrictive, so it doesn't really feel the best. At least this is something I hope they might update later on into the release after some feedback. I would much prefer for the local and world map to be 2 separate options and for me to be able to zoom in on both of them. I'm not sure why they decided to make this change. It doesn't feel good at all, and you probably will see what I mean when you try it yourself. You also can't zoom in or out on the local map, which is it's just, why would you give it to one and then not the other? This is silly. That's really silly, guys. And yes, the UI has been updated as well. If you asked me my least favorite aspect of Skyrim and ESO's visual design, I tell you that it makes no sense to have such a bland, modern, and minimalist design for your UI in a fantasy setting. It just doesn't fit with the creativity of the game and feels out of place. The awful UI has at least partially been brought over to Oblivion Remastered as well, but the developers did try to at least keep some of the charm. While the categorical selection of the menus feels modern and lifeless, the content within is pulled basically directly from the original with some added flair. So journal entries, inventories, etc. all still feel at least somewhat fantastical, albeit ugly, boring. The appeal of Oblivion is its character, and removing a lot of that character for modern design elements takes away from the wonder and experience that people are looking to go back to or see for the first time. That's why I'm really happy that the old minigames, lockpicking and persuasion, have remained mostly untouched. Persuasion at least offers a few new design elements to make it more clear how the mechanic works and how to best utilize it. You aren't pelted with DLC updates as soon as you enter or exit the sewers. Instead, all of the additional content can be found by hearing conversations while exploring, talking to the right NPCs, or just finding the locations yourself along the journey. This is especially beneficial to DLC like Frostcrag Spire, as you can now see the Wizard's Tower from anywhere on the map, thanks to better draw distance and LOD. You'd of course be curious what such a mysterious and unique looking tower is doing on the mountain near Bruma, and feel compelled to check it out, allowing you to more naturally discover the wondrous location. Speaking of exploring, there are some new animations and mechanics tied to movement. You can sprint now, and I've already seen people either making fun of or complaining about this running animation. However, the absurdity of the sprinting animation feels as though it is right in line with the rest of Oblivion's absurd design decisions, so I see it as the perfect fit. Going up hills is now much easier to accomplish regardless of how steep they are, however, you will slow down when this happens. Luckily, jumping bypasses this for the most part, and you jump a lot in Oblivion, man. You fly in Oblivion. There are new animations for combat as well. While it feels mostly the same, your character can now perform additional combat animations while spamming light attacks, and mechanically, you are able to continue fully damaging an enemy regardless of what your fatigue is at. It used to lower your attack the less stamina you had, and it was truly just an awful experience that I hated, especially within the early levels of the game. Horses behave mostly the same, and I couldn't tell if this was an actual change or not, but you move slower on your horse when moving backwards. Horse armor, of course, marks its return, and there are 2 new horse armor sets you can unlock within the Deluxe Edition. This is because the Deluxe Edition adds 2 new quests to complete as well. These quests are very short and just used to unlock new armor sets for the player. One of them has an Elder Scroll in it. It's a 2-second quest and there's an Elder Scroll in it? What? That's crazy. That's silly. Every weapon gets a version of this set, and you have the option to choose light armor or heavy armor variations. If you want to, you can choose to take everything as well and just store it for later. Not exactly the best reason to get the Deluxe Edition, but it's cool having something new, even if small, within a game you have played for 20 years now? In a way almost too true to the original, I did experience my fair share of bugs while playing through the game. Periodic crashes were the most frustrating to be sure, but I also had problems getting subtitles to show up from time to time. I also noticed that general dialogue would often cut out for me before a voice line was finished, and this even had some sort of effect in the arena. For some reason, if I hid behind a pillar while fighting my opponent, the cheers of the crowd would become muffled as if I had entered a building. I imagine this has something to do with updated sound design, but it seems to cause issues with actually allowing the dialogue to be delivered, and that's frustrating. It's a brand new release, guys. It's the re-release. It's a brand new re-release of an old game. Fix that stuff. For a modern release of Oblivion, a game notorious for its bugs, it's a little unacceptable to have some of these present. One of the main pros of a re-release or remaster is that the game should at least be stable, but the crashes prevent that from being the case. And while they don't happen all the time, sometimes never during a single session, they still do and force you to keep wary and quickly save often. There's reports of other players having further issues with Unreal Engine 5, and I don't think I have experienced any of the reported stuttering or what have you. Unreal Engine 5 hasn't been an issue for me thus far. If the engine is the reason for the crashes, I'd love to see that fixed, but I imagine that's more of an issue with Oblivion itself. You know what I have experienced though? Bald heads for no reason, and quest bugs from the original game that have no reason to be in a re-release of all things. One of the quests, I think it's called Adarhi's Heirloom, it's for the Thieves Guild, can have a bug where the ring you are supposed to steal just doesn't show up. There's some possible fixes for this, but nothing worked for me. This is a 20-year-old quest bug that is still in the game. Why? Why is that, Virtuos? Bethesda? That's ridiculous. I had to use console commands to give me the ring. So what are console players supposed to do? Revert a save to hours prior because the game told them that they were screwed? That's unbelievable. Oblivion Remastered is a remaster and not a remake. That sounds self-evident based on the title, but some people hypothesize that it was a remake because of certain changes. While I do find the definition gets muddied sometimes, it's clear that this release of Oblivion, at its core, uses the grand majority of mechanics and logic from its old engine, while using graphical elements from Unreal 5. If you asked me to define a remaster, that is how I would look at it. Graphical updates with minimal mechanical changes. A remake would be built from the ground up and could keep similar mechanics or have them change wildly. Final Fantasy VII has a remake, and Oblivion has a remaster, but I don't think the definition between the two is that important. I just saw some confusion online and felt like a little clarification would help. Something else I saw online was a lot of weird weird conversations surrounding the validity of this remaster. Do we need this? Who was this made for? I think a conversation like that is fine to have, albeit a little silly. Did we need an Oblivion remaster? No, but it helps a lot of people get into the series and doesn't detract enough from the original to be considered detrimental. Do we need any remasters at all? No. Do we want them sometimes? Yes, at least I do. And that's reason enough to have them, because I want them. I don't think it's a serious question to ask, do we need an Oblivion remaster, when people clearly want one? Multiple articles have gone up recently asking this question, and to me the simplest answer is that people wanted it, and that's all the reason in the world to do it. Yeah, I like new IPs, I like fresh creative content, but I also like remasters, I also like remakes. We live in a world where we can have everything and anything we want when it comes to games, and this discussion again feels a little silly, and comes up a lot when these remakes and remasters get released. Who was this made for? Me. It was made for me. I wanted this. I enjoyed this. I'm happy with it. Do you go to a hockey game and ask who hockey was made for? Maybe all of the fans enjoying themselves and getting invested in it. Maybe the players who are looking for competition. It's such a useless and pathetic question that looks to put the asker on a pedestal where they look down on those that enjoy something that the individual sees as not worthwhile. It exists because I like it. It's that simple. Now, I do get it though. Kind of. I get the reasoning as to why these questions get asked, or at least I think I do. Why do we have an Oblivion remaster? Was it for the fans? Probably not. It was so Microsoft and Bethesda could make money. That's the long and short of it. We all understand that, right? It's the market. Whether that is good or bad in your eyes, I understand why that would create a sort of bitter attitude towards these re-releases. When something you care about within a medium is creativity, it can feel like the goal of profit can stifle that. Add on to this that the consumer market gets influenced by it, with many ending up conditioned into wanting, or to a degree expecting them over preservation of the originals, or even for newer content. Is that the fault of the remaster? Not really, but you as an individual can't change the conditioning of the market by yourself when something has infinitely more influence than you do. So it can feel as though these influential remakes and remasters are a negative for the future of creativity in terms of new releases within the market. I'm not advocating for blind consumption. Like I said, there are bugs I think are inexcusable and should be fixed probably before you purchase it. The market is affected by these releases, and if this remaster changed a bunch of mechanics for the worst, I would have criticized them and probably passed on playing. But they did a good job for the most part. They did everything I was asking for, so of course it makes sense for it to be released for me. For someone that wanted this, so I'm glad to see it around, especially in the form that it is. Who was this made for is still a dog question though. I hate that question. You're so full of yourself if you ask that. So is the Oblivion remaster worth purchasing? That depends on a lot of factors. Some people don't like the $50 USD price tag for a remaster, nor do they appreciate the more expensive deluxe edition. I think your opinion on game prices is your own, but I felt it was worth it to make the purchase because it was something that I really wanted, and I love Oblivion, so if you love Oblivion, I don't know, maybe. But there's more than just the content of the game to think about here, and I would feel irresponsible if I didn't at least mention this next point. Microsoft has recently been targeted by the BDS movement, or Boycott, Divestment, Sanctions, a Palestinian-led movement for freedom, justice, and equality. The BDS have reported that Microsoft is the most complicit tech company in Israel's occupation and ongoing genocide against the Palestinians in Gaza, making them a priority target for the movement. Microsoft provides the Israeli military with Azure cloud and AI services, and have been providing services to Israel for 34 years. These services are used in the acceleration of Israel's genocide against the Palestinians. A call for boycott has been made, and the BDS requests that you do the following. 1. Cancel your Xbox Game Pass subscription. 2. Boycott Microsoft-owned flagship video game franchises. And 3. boycott all Microsoft gaming products, including Xbox branded consoles, headsets, accessories, and all games published by Microsoft-owned publishing labels, such as Xbox Game Studios, Activision, Bethesda, and Blizzard. I am personally of the mind that Palestine needs to be freed from Israeli occupation. If you feel the same, you may want to consider participating in this boycott. I'm not forcing you, I'm not guilting you, and I'm not holding this over you. This is just a fact that has been brought up numerous times so far, and I feel it is worth knowing about and coming to your own decisions. This was something I wasn't aware of until after my purchase of the game, and while I love Oblivion, I don't believe I would have made this purchase with this information presented to me. Oblivion is an amazing experience. Looking just at the content of the game itself, I can't recommend it enough to both returning and new players. However, I do believe in ethical consumption, and I think you should all at least do your research and come to your own conclusions before purchasing a product like this in a world where injustice is constantly taking place. I'm not telling you to do anything, but I do implore you to be knowledgeable and come to your own conclusions based on that knowledge. Ethical consumption isn't always possible, but sometimes it is, and I believe this is one of those times. It's up to you. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video. Hey, thanks so much for making it to the end of the video. This is the Patreon section where I shout out all of the patrons. If you want to support me, you can go to Patreon and find the link down below and support me that way if you want to. As you can see, I'm moving, and so I'm sorry it's a mess. There's a lot of boxes and stuff. You should be able to see the patrons here. It's usually here. And I'm gonna go ahead and shout out all of the G-Rank patrons because that's what you get when you're a G-Rank patron. So I hope you enjoy that. Shout out to Critical Link, Gloomerous, Backdraft 677, Natsuki Mamamura, Brendan Hesse, Metalhead Frank, Wooly, Ralcar, Ashtray, Cyberworm, Jonathan, Strangely, Lude Hafumi, I said that wrong the first time, Rosalio, and Mr. Janky. Thanks so much for the help, everyone, the support. Big shout out to Janky for proofreading the script, as always, and I will see you in the next video.